On the show today, Veena is a Yogini Ayurvedic practitioner who specialises in wound massage and who supports women in helping them return to wellness, balance, and their deep connection to self. So welcome, Veena.
Hello, Nicola.
Okay, so I would just like to ask you what kind of triggered you into your descent into your inner world? What was the catalyst that moved you into that depth of who you are?
So it was a series of things, and it took me kind of a good few years of kind of exploring, and maybe just starting with like a women's circle because I felt I should be in one. And I guess what triggered that was because there was nowhere for me to go on the outside. I'd kind of almost at that time exhausted all my options, and I almost felt like I didn't want to create any more chaos in my life anymore, and everything had started to almost kind of gridlock, and there was no room to just, oh, if I just do this then I could do that. Everything was just chaos. And I had to find room in myself to kind of get myself out of it.
And so what was kind of the chaos? You mentioned the chaos.
Yeah, so it was everything to like where I lived, my safety, how I was earning money, my job. It was very intertwined with my family, and I didn't at that time have harmonious, happy, balanced relationship with family, and that combined with living and money and business, all kind of gridlocked together. So that's kind of what triggered it, and that was kind of playing out in my friendships and my relationship, my intimate relationship as well, and even like the other work that I do, like with yoga and massage, that's also kind of playing out and kind of filtering out into those as well.
And so kind of during that moment of chaos, what were your biggest obstacles to move through?
It was really just the biggest obstacle for me at that time, because I had my story of, well, this is what's happening to me, and can you believe this is what's happened to me? And was my own stories and my own not being able to get past my own stories of what's actually happened to me in my life, and look what's happening to me, and just not being able to close that down and getting past myself of what, or I guess maybe a victim or just very tied up in my stories. Yes, I think that was the biggest one.
And yes, so the story, so your personal story, your personal narrative. And so what emotions were you kind of experiencing at the time which were really triggering this chaos in your life?
It was just the anxiety, the fear, and the whole ungroundedness of not being able to kind of even remove myself from those stories, even put space between what's happening, and just have a space between that, and even just feel okay with it. I was so attached to it because I couldn't let go, because I didn't want to detach and just feel what was going on for me. I was unable to do that.
And so those fears, kind of what was your greatest fear at that time?
It was just the enormity of it, that it was all, it just facing the reality of how things were playing out, and to some extent how I already knew that what was going on, but I was just in denial. It was the fear, the anxiety, and the helplessness and that kind of feeling exhausted, and then obviously then feeling very depressed, and just that vicious cycle of not too scared to do anything because you're just like too much chaos, and then trying to work out what to do, which then leaves me exhausted. Then I'm exhausted, then feeling very flat. Yeah.
And so that was kind of the repetitive cycle going round and round, like the hamster in the wheel.
Yeah.
And so then at some point, because you're an Ayurvedic practitioner, so you were already studying you were already doing your Ayurveda.
Yeah.
And you were already a yogini.
Yeah.
And so at some point you decided then to really go deeper, to engage in the trauma and the wounding and the conditioning and the patterns within self at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. So I practiced yoga for many years, and taught yoga classes, and then I started studying Ayurveda, and I think that whole process kind of gave me so much balance. That started to give me so much balance, and I was able to kind of, I can see why I have anxiety, or why I do the things I do. And then I just very simple things kind of just started to change the way I eat and the kinds of things that I do. So back then I would movement, and then not thinking that would probably add to my anxiety, that actually I need more rest, stillness. So, and then just kind of that kind of gave me the tools of actually I can rest, and it's okay to rest, and that kind of thing.
And so at some stage you obviously became engaged with shadow work.
Yeah. And yes, so I think everything comes at the right time. And before I became engaged with like the shadow work, so I had just been working with my anxiety to just be in my body, so just following the Ayurvedic kind of principles for that, and taking medicine, and then it was just through a friend who mentioned a course of yours, and then I was just really like the name was just something that really spoke to me, and I think it's because of like I really like women who run with the wolves, and this kind of mother, maiden, crone, and I can see those aspects in myself, but I'd never really explored them.
And so that was, so we embarked on the journey for the Maiden, Mother and Crone together. And so working with those three archetypes and working with your shadow, for example, because also the shadow has, when we talk about the shadow, it can still have a lot of dark kind of connotations surrounding it. But really the shadow work is just an inner work. It's just seeing those aspects of ourselves, which we can't really see ourselves. We just need the mirror to reflect back. And so when you embarked on the Maiden, Mother and Crone, for example, kind of working with those three archetypes, which, like you said, they're present within us as women, physically and spiritually. So kind of how did those three archetypes start waking you up to the depth of who you are?
Yeah, I really felt a lot of like magic and alchemy, just to like you say, it's not like this like deep dark shadow, but just to see aspects of myself, and just know that these kind of how my shadow for most of my life had been kind of playing out, and that's how I'd been living my life. So to kind of come and meet them face to face and listen to their messages and their fears and their wounds, I really felt like a magic, actually, for the first time in my own kind of like system, and almost like an alchemy, like a magic, kind of meeting them and kind of balancing them out.
And so working with those archetypes then obviously led you into deeper work on a one-to-one level with me. But those three archetypes have continued to be kind of like a foundation for you
Yeah.
Not just in the work that we've done together, but in your own life.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, like those archetypes, I can be more, you know, they still can be in their shadow, and I'm more, I can recognize the ones that I'm in. I like the mother, my own mother is always a big, it's taken me a long time, even when I did like the first mother maiden crone, I was unable to kind of have a dialogue with my mother. There was just nothing really there, and it's only kind of, and up until recently when I did the shadow work with you, that actually the weight of my word and feeling I could really mother myself. It actually meant something, whereas before it was just complete rejection of that aspect of myself, that I was unable to really mother myself and hold myself and trust myself. So I think that was the biggest one of me having that dialogue, and it actually meant something, and it felt something, and it held some weight. Like for me, I always needed it from outside, always needed somebody else to kind of just, here's a cup of tea and you're okay. But if I said that to myself, it meant nothing. There was nothing in me that would kind of pick up on that or resonate with myself, kind of soothing myself in any way.
And so that's really interesting, because the mother, so in your own story, you know, the mother was kind of invisible to you. That was the aspect of yourself which was in your shadow. And therefore, by engaging with it, you were able to work with her again and feel her.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's right, and that's what I mean by like the magic and the alchemy of having a session or a series of sessions and working on a particular kind of shadow, and how much it kind of then changes everything. Yeah.
Yes, it does change everything slowly but surely. And it's the alchemical reaction.
Absolutely, it does feel like that, and I feel that I've got the space to choose it, almost like, it's happening again, and kind of putting together the pieces in just that little bit of space and that bit of choice and awareness. And that's when the alchemy kind of happens, and you're just like, it could be very small, but it has such a ripple effect. I'll feel it in my body, like I can have that dialogue with myself, and how that kind of stops me from doing something else, maybe then, you know, trying to soothe myself in another way with another connection perhaps. So it saves me from all of that. But then I also notice, by me having that kind of dialogue with myself, how it filters out, and also how much for me it's balanced my relationship with my mother, my birth mother as well.
Okay, so so the bringing in the awareness and the self-discovery has really helped that's been your whole rebalancing kind of thing.
Absolutely.
How else has the shadow work helped you to redefine the relationship with yourself?
It's relationship to myself. I feel I'm in a safe place with myself, that I can just allow for me to learn more about me. There's parts of me that I'm just kind of picking up from when I was like a young girl. And I feel those other parts are kind of integrating, or I'm remembering. Also parts of when I was in my 20s, where I was still, you know, quite wobbly, but still kind of had I thought I knew where I was going. So there's her as well that I'm picking up with as well. So all different aspects of myself that I'm just integrating, and just kind of really getting a sense of who I am. And then obviously, because I'm older now. It's really just feeling into really what feels aligned now, and it's always changing. So just having that, just being open to kind of feeling what's right, and also knowing a big part of it is that I'm still really discovering who I am, or being able to be really honest about who I am.
Yes, and owning who you are.
Yeah, and just feeling I've got the space, and almost it sounds like I've got the capacity to do that with myself. Yeah.
And so you're kind of making friends with yourself again, all these different aspects of yourself which are coming up.
Absolutely, yeah. Whereas I'd kind of before I'd push them down and be like, well, that doesn't fit. That's just going to be too complicated. Whereas now it's like, oh, I can, there's all different aspects of me. So yeah.
And so how has that kind of helped you redefine the relationship that you had with the anxiety and with the blockages that you found in the beginning?
Yeah, and it's very subtle. So I can notice when I feel off slightly, like my own little, I can just feel it very subtly in my system. And that there is the thing of, oh, I shall just go and have a cup of tea and just relax, or what, take 10 minutes to myself. But I am now able to just, that conversation with somebody really left me feeling there was something that I didn't say, or that was lingering, or I just didn't really speak up for myself, or I just went on along with a situation, and I can kind of spot what, how it's kind of left me feeling, and then what it's bringing up in me. So I'm kind of be able to almost kind of track that and think, oh, that's because of that. Although I know she didn't mean it like that, but it's just how it made me feel, and it's bringing up all this other stuff for me. So it's kind of given me that I don't have to have that anxiety. And again, it's that space of just like, oh, actually, I've got a choice now. Of and I know very early on in the sessions you said you've got a choice, and I was just thinking, I don't even remember I have a choice when I'm triggered, and when it's full moon and everything is, I don't remember I have a choice. That's not something I remember. And now it's not a case that I think, oh, I remember I have a choice. It's more that I have space in my body, and I guess in my mind, to really just, what's going on, and then kind of be more present with myself. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And so how has the shadow work, how has that internal journey helped you to redefine your relationship with others?
Yes, it's I think it's definitely again, it's really subtle. It's not like a big, well, I've just done shadow work, so therefore I can't do this, I can't do that. It's just like a natural kind of balancing out. And I had the like the usual things. I'd be exhausted in any kind of relationship, or I'd be the one that would be maybe just overextending myself far too much, or these kinds of things. I just feel I have relationships, and I have a real sense of who I am, and I don't always get it right, and I can again still feel like, oh, like the anxiety, but then I notice it's because I've kind of tipped the balance and kind of forgotten about myself, and able to just think, oh, that's what that was, and just kind of look at the thread and kind of where it goes. But it's really helped me kind of give me balance in relationship. It's allowed me to be in relationship with others, rather than me just trying to mother and control everything. And it's helped me kind of get a sense of what I'm looking for in relationship, because I guess maybe when I was younger, it was just that I had to be in relationship with something or someone because I just couldn't be by myself. Whereas now it's actually, well, what are my needs in relationships? And, what feels good and what doesn't. So, and it's actually being able to receive, being able to receive in relationships, which is nice.
And so these are really, really interesting concepts because, you spoke a little bit there about the mother, wanting to mother and wanting to control. And then the beginning of the journey, you were talking about not seeing your own internal mother. And so it's interesting how that mother archetype has gone from being completely ignored and non-existent to recognizing her shadow side of being controlling and wanting to mother and step in and help everybody else. And now kind of coming into the opposite, the opposite side of the polarity and saying, okay, well, wait a second, what are my needs? How do I nurture myself?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's kind of, I've never been able to kind of maintain that balance. And we can read all the books, all the great books out there of, what are boundaries and, all this kind of stuff. But I don't know, from the head, it's something different. But when you kind of feel it in your system, like you might feel, the little bit of the anxiety or the little bit of like, I'm feeling a bit flat. And then if you can trace it back, then it's like a compass, isn't it? Like a gauge. You tune into it more and you start to respect it and honor it as well.
Yes, it's that internal navigator.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned there boundaries. And so how has it helped you to kind of reinforce your own boundaries, respecting your own space while being in relationship with others?
Well, for someone who hadn't not knowingly, but had much respect for boundaries, for my own space, being because of just too anxious to even know or just wanting to control and fix other people. It really has. It kind of went through a phase of with the shadow work of almost in a really gentle way of just really gently just pushing everything away just to kind of feel what my boundary feels like, what it actually feels like to be by myself. And it was almost kind of like a play of actually just pushing everything away and starting again and just feeling what a boundary could feel like, what it would feel like to be in relationship with someone, and not giving and having lots of space and just keeping to those boundaries. Yeah.
And so it's interesting that you mentioned that because, expanding into that boundaryless place, while understanding what our boundaries are, it's kind of like that's the space of the unknown because we don't know it.
Yeah. And I've never, like, again, from my head, if I, listen to, I don't know, a podcast or a book, I'd be like, these are the boundaries and, this is what you've got to do. And it's like, that would absolutely terrify me. That would just actually traumatize me. I'd be like, no, I can't do that. That's just but because it was coming from my body or this internal navigation, I could really see, I just did it with love as well, not just cold and this is my boundary and you're doing this. It wasn't that. It was also understanding how I've also contributed to the dynamic, and actually I'm just changing, stepping back or changing how I relate to this. But it was really coming from my body or an internal kind of feeling of, and feeling into this sense of like, this is me and this is you. But again, like from the body. Yeah.
And so experiencing that place of the unknown, so you've created that safe space and that internal navigator strong within your body. How did that make you feel to really experience that?
surprisingly, it was really effortless. Like before, I would have guilt, like, oh well, I'm just not helping people, and like guilt and all sorts of things. But actually, surprisingly, it maybe through the sessions, it was just a build up of maybe clearing things out that I could actually start to take room for myself, and I didn't want to hide. So it was actually really natural. It was just a natural kind of expanding, almost. It felt like, so it's not as daunting as maybe if I just did it like from my mind, which is like, I know this is really causing me trouble, and I'm, but to do it in this particular way, there was a kind of a real deep feeling, and it was just a natural kind of an expression, really.
And so how, talking about being in the body, so when you look back at your journey, maybe 2 or 3 years before, and being in all of the anxiety and the overwhelm, etc., and in the patterns and in the old story, and then suddenly to find yourself in this place of expansion, in that boundaryless with boundaries place, which is the unknown with inside, but feeling rooted in your body. Because also you're a yogini, one of the principles of being a yogini or doing yoga is by being in the body, and yet the story, the internal story, keeps us trapped in the head. So kind of how did you experience that shift?
It's been it's just been such a journey, because like many people who practice yoga, I was just, any yoga class, I'll be there. And it was, and then really through my own understanding of Ayurveda, actually the damage I was causing myself, because I was just, I was moving my body, but it wasn't with my body, and I wasn't with my mind, and I was just using my body to get away from myself, really, to distract myself from my body. So even in that, like, and again, it was a natural thing. I think even like with the shadow work and Ayurveda, you can be told, and somebody can come to me for advice, and I'll be like, well, perhaps you should stop running. If someone tells you that, you're not going to do it until you kind of, something starts changing in your body. Then you're like, oh, actually, I don't think I need to run anymore. And it was the same for me. I kind of stopped practicing such vigorous athletic yoga, and it just became more and more gentle, and it was much more kind of energetic, more kind of connecting with my heart and my womb, and just gentle movement and breath and just awareness, and more kind of Ayurvedic kind of wellness and massage, and just creating like a just kind of really being really rooted and grounded, and then that kind of just took me to a space where I wasn't really practicing any kind of like formal practice of yoga, but it was just more kind of connection and breath, more breath, gentle breath and rest, and again Ayurveda, and really, and then that's kind of when I felt, this is really yoga. For me, it was like, this is yoga, where you can, your senses become so sharp, because you can stay so rooted in your body, but still have a connection with other people, but also observe what's going on, and also have that choice. So I just found, the Ayurveda and the shadow work, this whole thing about having space and being rooted in your body, and balance, this whole getting away from good and bad and balance, they just worked so well together.
And so how was that kind of, you touched upon, coming from that yogic background, and then also the Ayurveda, but how was the shadow work and your own internal process, exploring who you are on the inside and making friends with all these hidden parts of yourself? How has that now helped you to redefine your relationship with your work and the work that you've come here to do?
And again, it's about being really honest with myself about really aligning to my gifts and my magic and my medicine for the world, or women. It's really taken a different form. So I guess people may have always known me as, doing all the yoga classes in community halls and dance studios, whereas now it's much more softer and much more intuitive and much more just kind of staying with the body, and just using much more subtle practices, whether it's yoga or Ayurveda, to kind of just kind of stay with myself, and kind of teaching that to other women. Yeah.
And so you also do womb massage.
Yes. Yeah.
So kind of how has that kind of helped you expand through your own inner journey, and this deep connection back to your body and being in your heart, being in your womb?
Yeah.
How has that expanded into womb massage?
Yeah, I mean, I had like a real fascination with the womb massage, and so I've had it done, obviously, on myself, and I just found the whole process of just landing back into my body, and really kind of, again, this navigation system, just kind of kind of twisting, or kind of recalibrating, and just my intuition becoming really strong, and my senses becoming very sharp, and just clearing out anything that's kind of stopping the intuition or the trusting, and the senses. So again, I found that very very nurturing as well, but also very kind of empowering, just coming back to your own intuition and your own center.
Yeah. And also I should imagine, with womb massage, especially because we hold a lot of our trauma in the womb, it's all there, from not just from this lifetime, but from generations ago, and etc. So to work on that level with other women must be an extremely empowering and quite rewarding journey.
Yeah, and it's I mean, even through my own experience of having the womb massage, and which I like to have regularly, there's some things that I just, that could be a direct experience that I've had, but sometimes I feel it's more like my mother's kind of flavour and feeling, or in my kind of maternal line. It can run so deep, and again, with women who have it, that they come forward for the womb massage because they instinctively know they need it, or there's something in there for them, and they can have it for various reasons. And it's not just the classic, I'm trying to have a baby. It can be for lots of different things, which the body, I think, almost urging them to come back to their center. Something has happened to them, whether it's sexual or not sexual, that's kind of that they've lost their intuition, or some kind of guidance in themselves, and then that's why they would have like massage, just to kind of come back to themselves.
And so kind of how does that work? So as the practitioner, doing the womb massage for women, and also opening your own internal navigation system and feeling all that intuition and that acuteness come through, does that kind of help you? Does the shadow work also help you to help them kind of redefine their relationship with their body, depending on kind of what's coming to the surface for them, what they are healing in that moment?
Absolutely, because I think it helps to, and then obviously, well, if you get a treatment or a massage, you can all feel, what they're going through, and maybe what's coming through for them. It kind of helps to ground what's going on, because it could be, like, and we're all like that, all women, oh, this sounds really funny, but I don't think it was anything to do with me. I think it's something to do with my mum or my auntie, and it's going to sound really funny, and I had a dream about it, and all the things that women do, and we think, oh, isn't that funny? And it kind of helps to kind of ground all that and just kind of bring it all together. Yeah. And it makes sense without it being really overwhelming.
Yes, and this is really beautiful, because this is the magic of the kind of feminine principle. It's everything that is connected. Even though we think that it sounds so stupid, and okay, I had a dream, but dreams have got nothing to do with it, but yet it's everything to do with everything. So it's really beautiful how you explain that.
Absolutely.
And so coming home to the body and understanding, and I think this is also really important, is understanding when the energy is not ours. Because again, that gives the women permission to understand that actually we're carrying stuff which is not ours, and it's okay to now let go of it.
Yeah, and I think that's massive. And even in like my own shadow work, I was like, oh, this isn't even mine. But it also kind of gave me the space to clear that, but also realizing how sensitive I am. I can be around somebody, go home and I'll wake up in the night having nightmares and stuff, and thinking, why am I having these nightmares that got nothing to do with me? And I'll speak to the person after a few days, and I'll be like, oh, how did you sleep that day? And they're like, oh, I had these awful nightmares, and I'm just, and you realize actually this isn't even mine. And then you just develop an honouring of yourself, of what's yours, what's not, and how sensitive we are as men. Yeah.
And so this is also really interesting, because again, it's the boundaries. It's not just the boundaries with other people, but also the boundaries of saying, well, I've been carrying this energy for a long time, and therefore it's up to me to respect now my own internal cauldron and reinforce that boundary and say, no, this is my space. You're not welcome here anymore. Thank you.
Yeah. And it's twofold. Like for me, it's learning how sensitive I am, but also where I've kind of, when I was younger, maybe from my own survival and wanting to survive, I would go over my boundaries because I wanted to feel connected to people, in relationships with everyone. So I would take everything on because I want to feel connected, and I definitely didn't want to feel myself. So even having that with myself.
And so that, being the empath, absorbing the energy, because also as children, we naturally absorb energy because we're so open. But then as we step into, understanding that we are empaths, and therefore we're like sponges.
Absolutely, yeah.
And as women, we go through those rites of passage through the menarche, and then obviously through childbirth, whether we're mothers or not. So all the time we are constantly receiving energy which is not ours.
That's right. Yeah.
And so when you're working with the women, especially in womb massage and also in Ayurveda, I should imagine, but helping them to also understand and respect their own boundaries.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it's just having those conversations about the whole thing of, I know it sounds really funny, but I just, when this happens, I feel this, and I'm not sure why this happens. And is it because of that person? And it's really just understanding, like allowing women to understand how receptive we are, but also not feeling like victims in that, like, oh, I've just got to push everyone away and everyone's, out to get me, and just really kind of understanding that the principle of being feminine, of what it really is, and how we really can be, and just the care around that as well.
It's extraordinary and beautiful work.
Mm.
And so through the yoga, the Ayurveda, the womb massage, the shadow work, having this expansion of self-awareness and this space within yourself, and this deep connection back with the body, and being present within it, kind of, how has that aligned with Mother Nature? How has that helped you to redefine your relationship with Mother Nature, with the earth, with the planet, with the ecosystem?
Yeah, absolutely. I before I got into this work, there wasn't really there wasn't like a deep honouring to Mother Nature. Lots of reasons. It was because the lack of trust, of being able to trust in something deeper, bigger, invisible than me. And also just I also think in how I was then was more kind of actually just taking from Mother Nature, and not really being with Mother Nature or life, or actually taking from life, maybe for my own survival. Whereas now there's and I think really how it's through this work, and I kind of offer it through the womb massage, and even the Ayurveda, because it's all about life and being connected to life, is just the deep surrendering surrender and just bowing down to life and being with life. And it's really kind of opened my heart to Mother Nature, and just that we're all connected and we're all here, and in these dynamics, and there's a way that we can just be together and just in that kind of compassionate space. But it's definitely opened up this kind of deep kind of heart with Mother Nature, and also being able to kind of rest with her, with it, which I haven't had before. It's always been like, it's just me. And if Mother Nature has forgotten about me, I'm not part of Mother Nature, kind of thing. So it's to feel included and part of it.
And so again, that's really interesting, that thread going from the beginning of the conversation, which was not being aware of the mother, the internal mother, through sitting with the mother, learning boundaries, and then coming back into right relationship with Mother Earth and sitting
Absolutely.
with her. It's really beautiful to hear and to witness that story of the mother through your entire existence.
Absolutely. It's and it's I guess like how we started off, and it's always been, when we started off, I always had the fixation of my narrative with my mother, with my birth mother, and there was nothing else to kind of look at. There wasn't a me in that. There wasn't kind of like the kind of the bigger offering, the bigger mother. There was nothing. There was just that my fixation about what's happened. But now it's much more fluid and much more open, and my heart's open to it all.
Yes, extraordinary. So it's kind of like the going from the self and the patterns and all the stuff we get trapped in that internal story, to coming into self.
Absolutely.
And then through that expansion of self.
Yes.
Absolutely. Really beautiful.
And it's really kind of the journey happened at the right time, because it's really kind of given me a deep to be able to hold women in that depth. I don't think I would have been able to, because my own capacity to hold myself and my own stories were quite limited. So to be able to hold women now is just, it's bigger than me. So it's they have that space now with me through that. So
and also I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because it is about the container, and I always refer to it as a container. But and I know in my own journey, I needed to have that strong container, to feel that strong container, to be able to then hold others.
Absolutely.
And so it's really interesting that it's one of the foundations of my work, but that you've experienced it, and not only just from experiencing yourself, but experiencing also that expansion within the container, and how now you're able to hold space for others.
Absolutely, and it's holding the space, but holding the unknown, and also knowing that actually there's not a manual with this, and it's just the space, and whatever can come or goes is okay. We're just going to see what happens, and the kind of well, for me it had always been about the control. I need to know what's going to happen, because I can't just let go, and just being able to just let go and just be connected to myself, and just seeing what happens and having that space. And then it gives women the chance to really connect with themselves and align and deepen into their own intuition and their own feeling of what's right, or how they're going to move forward or align. Yeah.
And so that's also the sense of safety.
Yes.
You know, so when we, you talked about not feeling safe. You know, this was one of the reasons why you entered into this deeper journey of yourself, but then also expanding into that space, allowing others to feel safe within your presence, because you're holding that container for them to explore themselves.
Absolutely.
That's
yeah.
a shift.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not something, I mean, you can say you're safe, but to feel safe is another thing. Like the body knows, like, oh, I'm safe. I can just, express however I want to express and feel safe, and it not, upset the other person. And it's definitely huge, I think, in this kind of, with the Ayurveda, the massage, just to have that container of safety, actually, because you almost kind of dive into a different place, like a different like a different dimension, and it's the safety. And if it's safe, then I think you can go deeper.
Yes.
Or just allow for whatever.
Yes, allow for whatever to come to the surface.
To come to the surface. We're not trying to be like, right, we need to get here and do this, just whatever's going to come up.
And so to allow, it's like allowing the body to talk.
Absolutely.
Not the head.
Allow the body to talk, and the more time we give, and I've noticed even myself, the more I become more experienced in allowing my body to talk. The answers are there. They just need to kind of come together. They just need the space just to kind of come together and think, oh, actually, this is what it is.
Really lovely. And so, okay, so what are the biggest insights or the greatest piece of information or wisdom that you can share with other women on this path who either know what shadow work is, who want to dive into shadow work, who are on that cusp of diving in?
I think it's the biggest takeaway for me is, like, and we all know it, like the answers are within, but really to create that magic and that alchemy yourself with life, and come out of your own patterns and habits, and align to really what really serves you, or discover what really serves you. It's been so powerful because it's such a gentle process, but it's so powerful. And really to experience that magic and that alchemy, and you're doing it yourself from your own body and your own messages, your dreams, and people coming into your life, and just working it all out. You become like just kind of a master in your own life, and it's definitely a journey if you're looking to deepen your relationship with yourself and really break down those patterns and the things that you can't see in yourself, and the things that maybe you haven't really want to experience or be truthful with yourself about. It gives you, the mind is like gonna be like, no, I can't do that, it was too much. But actually, once the body knows it can speak, it's much more gentle and not as bad as it feels, and it's a process. So
Yes, giving ourselves permission.
Permission, yeah, and just giving yourself the permission to kind of give yourself that space to integrate and feel and actually know your power. Actually, no, really feel your power. Like, oh,
Yes.
you know, it's not that person. Actually, it's just something that just keeps on playing out, and I can put a stop to this very simply. And just knowing your power and owning it.
Yes, because that's essentially what it is, you know,
Yeah.
like with your own journey, excuse me, letting go of the internal story that keeps you stuck and in all that old kind of patterning,
Yeah.
but then stepping into your own power and saying, well, wait a second, I have a choice.
Yeah.
And I can choose to step into this relationship with myself from a conscious place, but allow the body to talk rather than the mind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, that's really beautiful, Veena. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. It's been a
Thank you.
real pleasure.
Thank you.